It is the worst first round of the NBA playoffs ever, and not only for Rajon Rondo. We'll get to Rondo in a second, but we'll start with two statistics. 5 of the 8 first-round series, all 5 that have played 2 games, are 2-zip. The 3 others resume tonight. Since the NBA went to this playoff format, which is now going back over 31 years, there has never been a season in which all the first-round series were 2-love. So we are talking about trending towards unprecedentedly non-competitive first rounds. And then I can take it a step further. Here's the second proof, and this is a worse number. None of the 13 games played so far have been decided by 5 or fewer points. Since they went to this playoff format, again, 31 years ago, there's never been a postseason in which there was not a single game decided by 5 or fewer points within the first 2 games of the first round. So we're talking about non-competitive series and non-competitive games by and large. It has been a sort of a drab start to the NBA
It has,
playoffs.
though the Celtics, that game was closer, a little longer. Mm-hmm. You know, that was a physical game. I think the Celtics had the thought process in mind. We're gonna go for the physical beat-up method last night, and as LeBron said, he's pretty much seen everything, and he and Kyrie Irving went off on that one in the fourth quarter, scoring all the points. But I thought we were going to get that competitive game with the Rockets and the Mavs. Just a 1-point game going into the fourth quarter. Rockets are up 81-80 going into the fourth quarter. So that was trying to maybe go against all the statistics that you just read. But then it was 30-9. Forget that it was 30-19 in the fourth quarter where the Rockets won that. The amount of slam dunks and alley-oops, there were 14 for the game. I believe 7 in that quarter. Josh Smith to Dwight Howard. It was a dunk fest. It was like watching the All-Star game, wasn't it? I mean, when guys are just setting each other up for dunks or alley-oops, it was unbelievable. Yeah, it turned into a double-digit game.
There were so many dunks that I actually have a stat pack on the Rockets dunk fest last night. They dunked 14 times, tied for the most by any team in a playoff game in the last 15 years. Dwight Howard's 7 dunks were tied for the second most he's ever had in a playoff game. It was Howard dishing out the love to Dallas, meaning he dunked on 5 different Mavericks in the game last night, and 6 of the dunks were on alley-oops. That's 2 more alley-oop dunks than any other player has had in a playoff game in the last 15 years. All 6 of them were assisted by Josh Smith. So it was a festival of dunks for Dwight Howard, but that was not the story of this game last night. The story of this game last night is the Rajon Rondo situation, which has been brewing, has cratered.
It's done.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely cratered. Rajon Rondo last night got called for not getting the ball over half court in time with absolutely no pressure in the backcourt. None. He just walked up the court so slowly that he didn't make it over in 8 seconds. And I got to tell you, I'm sure that's happened this season in the NBA or sometime recently in the NBA. I didn't see it. I didn't see a play in which there was no pressure in the backcourt whatsoever.
I didn't see it, no.
And a guy just walked so slowly that he didn't make it over the court in halftime.
Got the call. Lost on defense a couple of times. Draws a foul or commits a foul on Harden. They square up. He shoves, gets a technical. You know, now he's riding the pine. And that was that. I mean, listen, I think we all knew going into this, you know, at some point, we had talked about this way earlier, a little bit after the trade, quite honestly, when the team actually was doing worse with him and when he got there and on the court, and just that he wasn't going to be there next year. So I don't think that's shocking anybody that will say he's not going to be there. I think that was kind of known, but that was just amazing. Just amazing to see. And then the ball goes the other way, and he's running around with like a chicken with his head cut off, not covering anybody, gives up a wide open 3. I mean, it was just bizarre. Just absolutely bizarre on that whole series of what was happening.
And then they take him out of the game, and then he basically doesn't play again. Rajon Rondo, who has everything in the world to be playing because he's a free agent this summer, is costing himself a fortune. He winds up playing 9 minutes and 55 seconds in a playoff game last night. This is a guy who has been the best player on the floor in serious NBA playoff series before, has been as an NBA champion.
But we've seen this quirkiness as well. Maybe not dribbling up, and but we've seen a type of quirkiness out of him. And you're right. At a time, athletes, listen, they're human beings. It's a money year. In a money year, guys usually are pretty darn focused. Not that they shouldn't be focused anyway, but as I said, you're human. You're playing for that free agent contract and some big money. And, well, I tell you what, it's not happening.
Finishes with 4 points, 4 fouls, 1 assist, 0 steals. turns the ball over once. A whole lot of moping and sitting on the bench in less than 10 minutes of action on the floor last night. Here's his coach, Rick Carlisle.
Rick, what factored into your decision to play Rondo only 36 seconds in the second half?
Well, he got his 4th foul, so I took him out. And then, I like the way the other guys were playing, so elected not to put him back in. Coach's decision.
Here's more.
You can ask him that question.
Specifically, the question is, how does Rondo feel about this?
You can ask him that question. All I know is right now we need everybody, at their competitive best. And this isn't about one guy that did or didn't play. This is much bigger than that. This is about everybody pulling the same direction, for the organization. That's what it's all about. And so, we just got to go home and we got to take care of business at home. They've done what they're supposed to do. As a home team, we got to do what we're supposed to do.
Certainly handled that well.
Well, he's trying to downplay that part of it.
He's not going to individualize this and just make it a Rip Rondo thing because he realizes it's got to be a team effort. Of where they are in this series. So, no, quite honestly, I think the last 2 times the Rockets were up 2-0 in the series, they ended up losing them.
Including
and one of the times to the Mavericks, I think in 05. So it has happened before. But Coach kept the whole team aspect of it going in that response.
Dallas's offense was just terrible last night. They shoot 37%. They only had 14 assists on 33 made field goals. So that's not having an offense. And that's part of that is, you bring in a point guard. And it's an interesting, remember when they went out and got Rondo? Yeah. Cerruti, make sure I'm getting this right. Weren't they number 1 in the NBA in offensive efficiency at the time they acquired Rondo? They were leading the league in offensive efficiency. They had the most efficient offense in the NBA. And they went out and got Rondo. And a bunch of idiots like myself said, great move. This is going to be the piece that puts them over. But, when you're wrong, you have to admit you're wrong. So, obviously, I couldn't have been more wrong because they have not been this. Basically, from the moment that happened, they haven't been the same team. I remember we were there and we sat down with Dirk at the Super Bowl, and we were there no, it wasn't the Super Bowl. It was for the college
playoffs
football game,
yeah.
But we were in Dallas. And we sat with Dirk for about 20 minutes and did an interview on the air. We talked to him about Rondo and how he's, fitting in and all that. And Dirk said all the right things, but it's been a disaster.
It's been a disaster.
An abject disaster.
I'm going to be real interested in where he ends up and for how much. Listen, you still make
I think
money.
That for how much would be the interesting part.
You still, again, that's relative.
Well,
he's going to make, compared to most people, he's going to make a lot of money. But in the sport, I think he's going to be well below of what he possibly could have gotten.
Well, was this a guy who, if he had put together a really good season...
Was he a max guy?
That's what I was going to ask you. If not, he's going to be darn close.
Going to be close, yeah.
And what's he going to get now?
Don't know if it would have been a max, but I agree. I think if he played lights out, it could have been close. But, yeah, I would imagine a lot of people would have a hard time thinking it's going to be anywhere near that.
See, because there were 2 reasons you might give a player a max contract. I was just having this conversation with Stephen A. yesterday. Actually, so I had an interesting day with Stephen A. and I spent some time together yesterday after our respective shows that I'll tell you about.
I was watching Stephen A. walk through Mayweather's house.
Oh, that was yeah. He was more interested in that.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, that wasn't yesterday.
No, I know, but that's the last I saw Stephen A. was last night doing that.
Yes, I didn't take him in a private plane. I didn't take him in one of his 5 Bugattis, and I did not take him into the penthouse of a building that I own.
Holy
Floyd Mayweather did all of those things. No, Stephen A. and I just met with some HR people. Yeah. That's all it was. We were hosting a group of people from Disney. But that said, we had some interesting conversations about this and about what makes a max player worthy of being a max player. And there are 2 reasons why you might give a guy max money. One of them is his production. And clearly Rondo, that would have been the only reason you would have, because the other is his marquee value. And Rondo never had that. I mean, even in Boston, he wasn't the big star there. I don't think anyone was going to sign Rondo and say, put him up on marquees everywhere.
Look at the Q rating here.
Rondo.
Yeah.
So that wasn't the reason you were going to give him huge money. The reason you were going to give him huge money is because when he was at his best, he was an extraordinarily effective player. If he's not that, then what is he? So this has been an abject disaster for him and for them. You can talk about how the Rockets have blown 2-zip leads, and you're right. We had a stat yesterday, Mike. Forgive me if you already knew this. I was stunned. I made them go back and check it like 3 times because I didn't think there was anywhere in the world it was right. Do you know that since the NBA went to this current playoff format, 31 years now, teams that are up 2-0 in the first round of the playoff, or in any round, teams that are up 2-zip in any round of the playoffs, do you know what percentage of the time they win?
I was going to think a lot, but now I'm not thinking as much.
No, it's a lot.
It is a lot.
I would have guessed 70%.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
94.
Oh, so it's basically thought to be over.
94%. That's the point. The old adage, well, a series doesn't start until the road team wins a game. Baloney.
Yeah.
I mean, these series, history tells us, are basically over.
I don't see the Rockets losing this one down 2-0 like they did the last two times.
It's a festival of dunks last night.
Wow.
Two other games last night that we will get to coming up in exactly 1 minute here. Bunch of numbers. Another guy who doesn't play crunch time minutes. How's that working out? Your chance to win a trip to the ESPYs. Grill Gola questions are on the way. All that and more. That's in 1 minute after.